Alright, time for the DraftPhysics.com video presentation. Alright, it's another comment by Dupis Thinks Too Little, aka Station of Play. Who knows? Farley, who knows? Anyway, just thought I'd respond to it because it has some of the subjects in it, but again, all of the arguments I make, you have to respond to the specific arguments I make, or just reiterating the point I've already defeated to me seems pointless. But whatever, this is what commenters do. So anyway, all right, it says here, you don't have to censor my comments. I'm not censoring them, I'm responding to them. It's a big difference, frankly. I'm reading them and then reacting and responding. And what I'm not going to do is put a whole bunch of text in a comment section because I make videos. Now, you make comments. That's your shtick. Well, it's not my shtick. So, frankly, I think I'm being more than fair, and I'm doing more than what you're going to get on most channels. So, what are you complaining about? My complaint to you is that you're not really reacting or responding to anything I say. You're just ignoring it all and then reiterating a point that is crap. So that's my critique of you. I didn't dox you or call you names. Who cares? I care about the doxing, not frankly, but I didn't block you, did I? I just deleted the comment because I disposed of it as crap. Now, if you would have won the argument, okay, then I would have left the comment. But you didn't win the argument. So far. Not even close. You didn't link to anything called evidence. You didn't describe anything called evidence. You just made some claims for which there is no evidence. So, I think I've been more than fair. Yeah, I think it's more than fair. But anyway. Let's see. No, it's not easy at all to get rid of all the confounding variables if we're talking about fuel. I think it is, of course. There's a million devices that have a low, medium, and high setting on them. I mean, this is just bullshit, okay? Again, turbines run all the time, all kinds of things. You can run them at half the speed, full speed, flywheels. I mean, there's just so many examples. And there's absolutely no indication that it takes 16 times the fuel to go 4 times as fast. Not even a slight indication. So, bullshit. Okay, for example, most of driving is about maintaining your speed against friction and air. Well, by your theory, right, by advocates from your position, friction is linear. So it would be the same no matter what speed you're going. It would be proportional to your speed. Where obviously I'm arguing that friction gets a lot better the faster you're going. So and air is it's more resistance the faster you're going. So that's to your advantage. So let's see it. Let's see it have this huge gigantic effect, and it doesn't. So again, you're just talking shit. So I'm just saying again, race car drivers, lots of people, there's lots of people do this shit every day, and they know none of this crap is true. Okay. Let's see. You articulate only a minority of the time. What? You accelerate only a minority of the time. So what? Maintaining your speed, not maintaining your speed doesn't make any difference. There's no huge advantage for one over the other now. Until you can show that huge advantage, no sale. Now, I would argue that obviously slower things are hurt by friction more than fast things. But again, then you should be able to show the fast thing. Well, it still can't be 16 times different. So it's still a gigantic difference. So of course you're not going to see the sort of impact you're looking for in terms of miles per gallon. So again, you're making some kind of argument that things on Earth come close to just keep going, when we know they don't come close to keep going. Keep going doesn't happen. So we know everything faces some amount of friction which consumes their energy. And you're just saying, well, you're saying it's so difficult to find something that does that evenly. I don't think it's that difficult. So again, this is just almost a sidetrack. This is red herring. This is, you're just pretending you have this gigantic thing to explain. 5 times an increase in your speed, 25 times the fuel. I mean, come on, it gets worse and worse. You can't, it's not a sustainably reasonable thing to argue for. Okay, so this is where you just start lying, right? So I'm not going to leave comments up there, just lies. Several studies suggest a nonlinear relationship between speed and the risk of fatal accidents. That has to do with the fact that our brain can only take so many g-forces. So, duh. We're obviously not linear. I mean, not linear in the sense that, that it's all the same. Obviously, our vulnerability increases with speed. It has nothing to do with 16 times. It has nothing to do with this squared function. It just has to do with, yes, increasing the speed. Increasing any g-forces are going to affect us. Duh. So again, this is another fake argument. All right, meaning that the speed increases, the risk of death increases at a faster rate. So that's perfectly sensible. We are made out of jello. Your brain is a pile of jello. Yeah, jello doesn't survive too well in a shaken package. Anyway, this is consistent with the physics of kinetic energy. So of course it isn't. It has nothing to do with it. So that's just a big fat fucking lie to say that the fact that our brains have speed limits proves anything. The fact that our skin can be penetrated by a projectile at a certain speed, that somehow proves the kinetic energy theory? Ridiculous statement. I mean, what if we were actually sea creatures, made out of jellyfish? You're going to make this silly argument? I mean, it's a silly argument. Like octopuses or something. All right, which increases with the square of the speed. So just more bullshit. So you don't have anything that suggests it increases with the square of the speed. Bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit. All right, a study published in the Accident Analysis and Prevention Journal titled Speed and Crash Risk, yeah, right, 2000, for example, found that the risk of a fatal accident increases approximately quadratically with speed. So again, that has to do with our physical limitations. It has to do with the fact that we're not made to go fast. That evolution didn't build us to be going 40 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not there is any squared function to increasing something's speed, where you need four times the force to go twice as fast. So show me that evidence. You see, this is why you're annoying. And with a let's see, slightly higher exponent for freeways and interurban roads. So, I would say it's kind of obvious that speed kills. Okay. But, yeah, I'd have to see the study that would include anything other than high velocity accidents. Because all the rest are going to be some some circumstance like they weren't wearing seat belts or some kind of other bullshit. A 2011 report from the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety also indicates a strong relationship between speed and crash severity. So again, more nonsense. Severity by what standards? So it's not seen. All right. The fact is, you crash the cars into something. They don't crash to these specifications. I don't crash at 20 miles an hour and then 80 miles an hour and see a 16-time difference in the amount of crash. So, fuck you. And look, the obvious one is I see these are the parts you just ignore. So, this kinetic energy thingy doesn't have any physical reality because you can actually do the experiment. Okay, it's been done. Where you take the heavy ball going half the speed and the half as massive ball going twice the speed, and you crash them into each other in a Newton's cradle. One of them has twice as much energy as the other one by your theory, and yet the crash doesn't move at all. It stays right there. Momentum seems perfectly in control, and there's no sign of kinetic energy meaning anything. And if I increase the momentum, the crash does move. So every time there's a crash between two things, momentum decides who wins, who moves the crash, not kinetic energy, which is just kind of a glaring statement. Say, well, how can your energy be real if it can't move a crash? If it can't win a tug of war, how can you call it real energy? All right. I agree that theoretically we could repeat Eddington experiment with greater precision. So this isn't even, it's almost such a silly thing to say. I agree that we can repeat a 1919 experiment with greater precision. Well, duh. 100-year-old experiment? That's not the point. We're talking about 400 times better resolution from space. 400 times. And you say this little putrid pile of mush? Disgusting. I mean, really. And the only way the experiment could be done in the past was because they didn't have a perfect eclipse over North America, where they have giant, 2-meter or 3-meter telescopes that they could have used. They had to carry telescopes all the way to Africa. And South America. All right. But scientists don't prioritize experiments that way. So again, just more cop-out bullshit. One of the most famous experiments in the history of science. It made Einstein a household word. It's an insanely bold statement that the lightest, fastest thing in the universe is twice as bent by gravity. And scientists don't prioritize. Then they're bullshit. They're not scientists, in my opinion. That's a priority of science, is to secure their theories, to secure them with evidence. Resources in science tend to go towards novel things. I'm just saying that then that's exactly not scientific, because what you're supposed to do is repeat things and create multiple sources to verify. That's supposed to be one of the most important things you do, is shore up your foundation. So in my opinion, these aren't scientists by definition, because they don't even know the rules of science. Okay, not confirming things that are already considered well established. Considered well established by any reasonable standard? No. Did they come to court with an actual bullet and some fingerprints and some DNA evidence? No. They just come to court with a fucking story, and you're saying that's good lawyering. No, it isn't. That's a shyster. I understand that you disagree that this is well established. I disagree that it's any established, let alone well established. That's right. That the evidence actually completely sucks for any notion of visible photons being bent, by gravity, let alone bent twice as much. All right, gravitative lensing is a key. So here we go again. This isn't a prediction. This is just horseshit. The lensing was seen before this was thought of, but regardless, I mean, it's obviously a prediction of thinking gravity is bent at all. So everybody speculated about whether light would be bent by gravity even back in Newton's day. So what the fuck are you talking about? So this is where the storytelling is just such a pile of shit. General relativity predicts twice as much bending. It's a very specific prediction. The idea that people thought light could be bent by gravity, that already existed. Let's see. Gravitational lensing is a key prediction of general relativity. The observation of rings and arcs around galaxy clusters. So I've already explained that. So you just ignored the previous video, ignored the argument made, and Einstein made it, by the way, that you wouldn't see an Einstein ring, right? So they talked about Einstein rings when Einstein was still alive, and Einstein's comment was, well, you'd never see one, because I think Einstein I can't say for sure what his reasoning was, but I think Einstein's reasoning was kind of simple. The gravitational lens has no durability because it's not a lens. It hasn't been manufactured deliberately to have the right amount of bending, to have an incrementally correct amount of bending. There's no focus. So there's only one little place where you could possibly have light bend in the right to get to you. There's only one place. And a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left won't work. So you can never see anything but a terribly thin line. So I already made the argument and you ignored it. See, that's the point. That's why your comments are deletable, is because I argued this already. And you've ignored the argument. The observation of rings and arcs around galaxy clusters is consistent with the theory. It's inconsistent with the theory of it's an inverted lens. It's the wrong shaped lens. You can't project images because it can't send information from two separate locations, sequential locations. It can't send sequential photons to the same location. Alternate explanations like the presence of unseen matter, which you allude to. Well, I allude to the fact that we already know that there's matter around every single star. So every single star in the universe has a huge field of matter around it. Gigantic. Probably 2 radiuses worth, at least. You don't think so? So fuck you. I mean, the plasma is it's already a known fact. It's already, the plasma from the sun goes all the way out to the earth. Would have to be extremely fine-tuned to produce the observed effect. So there's no fine-tuning. That's the whole point. The observed effect is sloppy and messy and mathematically uneven. It's nothing like what lensing should look like. Lensing should be really symmetrical, extremely symmetrical, perfectly symmetrical. What it looks like is gas from an old supernova, where it spread unevenly because it crashed into different amounts of resistance. It looks like the residue that you would imagine would exist after a supernova. It's also worth noting that many gravitational lensing observations involve looking at very distant objects through relatively empty regions of space, like there are such a thing, where the effects of interstellar matter material would be minimal. So again, the more distant the object, the more impossible it is to say the space was empty, that you're viewing through. Not likely. So anyway, I have no idea what you're talking about when you say the lensing wouldn't work. So it's apparent that you don't have any idea. I don't know what's so complicated. Think about a gravity lens and think about a regular magnifying lens. What's the big, huge difference? Well, a regular magnifying lens bends the light more on the outside and less on the inside, where a gravitational lens bends it more on the inside and less on the outside. So that's a big giveaway right there. The idea is you need more bending the further out, the higher the angle the light shoots out at, the higher the angle it needs to bend it at. And it's exactly the opposite. The weak gravity won't bend it at all, and the interior gravity, the gravity real close, going for almost a straight line, that gravity is insanely strong. And so you get a lot of bending. So you can't understand that argument? Would you kindly point me to where you explain this in detail? No. Yeah, sorry. I suppose you can just search DraftScience and the word lensing, and you might come up with some videos. I'm sorry that your ideas are scattered over so many videos. Well, I have narrowed it, so if you go to the Debate Physics channel, there is a gravitational lensing video there. I just can't watch them all, so your help would be appreciated. Go to debatephysics.com. It's true that the radio waves have a much larger wavelength than visible light, and so in principle they might not be as useful for making precise measurements. Well, you're certainly not going to, let's see what the right, you're not, certainly not, this is about transmitting an image accurately. That was the key part of Eddington's experiment, that it's an entire image of something. See, scatter can't produce a consistent image. Scatter scatters the photons in all directions. So you'll get the energy from different places and land in the same location, but it won't be image data. It'll just be energy, photons. A number of photons will hit, and they'll be from a whole bunch of different sources in the scatter. So there'll be no image. And the key thing is the Eddington experiment is an image. So it's a lot more reliable. In terms of, its source can't be scatter. Scatter won't produce an image. Scatter that isn't regulated by something like a diffraction grid. So unless you have a grid with a bunch of lines, a million lines or whatever, you're not going to be able to transmit an image because there's not going to be regular points for the scatter. So anything that produces randomized scatter won't duplicate or won't transmit an image. However, radio waves can pass through interstellar dust and other obstacles. So again, they don't pass through it benignly, they pass through it through scatter. Compton's scattering, proven fact. Okay, that can obscure visible light, and the technique used in radio astronomy can achieve extremely high resolution. So again, but it can't create extremely high resolution for what you would call a beam of light that you're going to claim is bent by gravity. So I don't think that's a compatible theory, because the image data is traveling through space over too large an area, frankly, to stay as coherent as it needs to. But a better way to say it is the radio waves are coming from the source, and I'm just trying to think of how. It's probably something you have to draw, the whole optics of how you're getting a radio image from photons that are so big in terms of their wavelength and polarization. I mean, you're really talking about, polarizations that can be, 2 miles, theoretically. And how that can't land on a surface and see a person on Earth, for example. But you could see a whole planet. All right. Anyway. So I read your comment. Again, it doesn't contain any real data or information or evidence. You just claims about somebody's, again, making a connection between saying that our brains turn to mush at a quadratic rate. I first off don't think that's true, but regardless, even if it was true, it wouldn't prove that speed requires more fuel at a quadratic rate. So it's nowhere close. And I'm just saying, after 350 years with all the whole machine age we went through the whole Industrial Revolution, and you're telling me it seems quite reasonable to you that in all that time they never decided to show it, to document that it takes 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast. And frankly, most people don't know it. That's the reason why you can get away with it, is most people don't know that's what your physics actually says. And if I'm just saying, if I could make this argument to most people and say they really do believe it takes 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast. 25 times. Do you think so? I think they'll answer, no, I don't think that could be right. So whatever. Alright, so I'll take a pause and see if I can find some other rubbish to respond to. Okay. That's all you can do here on this planet. I just went looking to see if there's any responses from Michael on his video, and there aren't any as of yet. But the weird one is this JG Cap guy, whatever that says, who leaves this crap nothing link, and then he says hook, line, and sinker, and a little crying laughter emoticon. What is that? So he's a troll? So he's just been wasting people's time? I mean, what? Hook, line, and sinker. So he's laughing at anyone who would be interested to see if there was some sort of data about how fast cars go and how much fuel they use when they go faster. And the fact that the link wasn't to that, he thinks it's funny. Probably should go to his channel and see who this fucking asshole is. So he just has playlists, free speech. So I guess he wants the free speech to yell fire in a theater and then laugh. Nostalgia. It's, one video and then music. No, I'm not interested. But I think he's just blockable, frankly. If I don't have him blocked, I might as well. Because this is just too stupid. These people are just a menace. Morons.
We can say...
Just a fucking menace. Alright. So, nothing new there. Alright. So, I'll go see if there's anything else. No, just went back to the lever video just to see if there was anything at all about if he's getting somewhere close to doing the experiment or something like that. Anyway, there's this really stupid comment by this Zilius the Holly, whatever that is, whatever. And he posted it twice, if not 3 times on the video, which is funny. So experiments performed by Emily D. Chatelet and William Gravesend showed that by dropping heavy lead balls into a bed of clay with twice the velocity, not twice the height, that would be 1.4 the velocity, the balls penetrated 4 times as deep, and with 3 times the velocity reached a depth 9 times deeper, showing that energy is proportional to mv squared, not mv, as Newton suggested. Why not just do mvv? Yeah. Anyway, so obviously I have debunked this experiment, many, many times, explained why. Okay, you got those results. And the simple thing we'd probably like to have is for physicist Michael to defend the experiment. You could argue this was a turning point in history. If it wasn't for these clay experiments, mv squared in its second rendition wouldn't have succeeded. It only succeeded because of these experiments. Experiments where they used high velocity objects. Higher velocity objects knock things further away. So if you just do a simple experiment where you just say how far away did particles go, obviously faster things make particles go further away. So that's not a big surprise. But anyway, so the experiment is critically dependent on this round surface, this nonlinear surface penetrating the clay, and they don't penetrate the clay more than halfway of the object. That is, the object doesn't go deeper than halfway into the clay. And those are very specific results. And you can see that in Gravesend's own drawings of the experiment, that they don't penetrate. They're not measuring how deep it goes into the clay. They're just measuring the dimple in the clay. And that's where the round surface plays a critical role. So if they didn't drop round things, the truth would be that the results would be different, and they wouldn't show kinetic energy theory to be correct. So it's just because they used round surfaces. Simple explanation, yet these people talk this crap as if the evidence is above any explanation, and they're just saying, I pulled the rabbit out of my hat and I don't care that I faked it. I make rabbits and I proved it because I pulled one out of my hat. So I'm a rabbit maker, and we're supposed to believe it. It's just tricks, really. These are parlor tricks. This isn't physics. It's just fool people. That's the game they're playing. They're not playing science. They're playing, let's try to fool people. So anyway. Alright, so that's probably enough. Nothing else of news to report, I guess. So till the next time and such.